Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to the Empowered Harmonizers. And we are zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer question. And that was, is this narcissist, this emotional manipulator, this person who seems to have kind of a big ego, are they really that secure in themselves, or is it all an act? So thank you so much for your inquiry, and let's zoom in and focus in on that concept. When you are around, however you want to assign a title to them, a narcissist, a covert narcissist, overt narcissist, a borderline psychopath, I know that these are all different series of traits and personality disorders, but when you are with especially someone who is trying to control and manipulate you and overpower you, oftentimes this is due to a need to feel significant and a need to feel that they are being looked up to. They will be triggered when they feel that you are either getting too much, ground underneath you, you're happy, you're in your shining moments, you've made some great advancements, you've personally grown, maybe you've had a personal growth or a professional growth or some sort of positive things are going for you in your life. This is when you are going to get lashed out at. This is where you're going to see the narcissistic rage, when they feel that their position is being threatened as the number one, the most special, the most important, the one who's the oldest, the looked up to, the prettiest, the most handsome, the ruggedest, whatever it is, the mostest that they want to be. If they feel that that is being threatened, that's when you're going to see these insecurities or this narcissistic rage come out. And it's really a sign of insecurity when these individuals will launch into their displays of narcissistic rage, yelling, threatening, intimidating, ignoring, being very aloof, being very inappropriate. If you're out at a gathering and they're not socially talking to you the whole night, I mean, you know that something is up with them, and then they want to always leave you wondering about them, so that basically all you're left doing is thinking about them. Especially the narcissist and the psychopath, they take delight in being the center of attention, and especially in the psychopath, they always want you to be thinking about them, planning for them, giving to them. How can you cater to them? How can they break you down to the point where you've lost a complete sense of centeredness, groundedness, and even a sense of identity? They want to really brainwash your identity clean and then create within you the person who they want you to be, surely for the idea of controlling somebody else. It's really a strange sort of psychological takeover that they seek to accomplish within people. And they know that this is going to cause hurting and suffering in you. And these individuals, especially those who are psychopathic, take a great deal of pleasure and delight by seeing other people in pain. They get a sort of, goose by it or whatever. They get juiced up knowing that they've been able to make this sort of impact on people. And to me, it's a sick thing. It's something that it would turn most people's stomach. It would, not be capable for most people to really engage in this sort of planning, pre-calculated behavior. But it is a way for them, because they don't have any inner life. This is just the way that they're able to feel like they have power and control over others. So it's a way to overcompensate for their lack of emotional connection or warmth with others. They just don't have that connection. They do not have the ability. They do not have the physiological wiring to do that. And then, so this is how they put on a show. So they might be overly, warm, or, making dates with you, or being like the perfect partner, but then you find, a whole nother situation with them when you start to expose them, or when you're with them and you start to see perhaps a corrupt life that they have, double and triple lives, making plans here, making plans there, living here, living there, not taking care of this, but doing that. I mean, it will boggle your mind. And these are the people you definitely just need to move on and walk away from. And it's a way, it's not anything that you've done. A lot of people always question themselves, well, maybe, it was something I could have done to keep them from doing that. Get that thought out of your mind. There's nothing that you could have done to change them. It's not your responsibility to try to change these people. This is how they are. You can't turn them around. Life will change enough, but you want it to change for the positive. These people, they will not change the way that they dupe, manipulate, and control other people. It's just business as usual for them. This is how they operate. You can't put that sort of burden on you because you are definitely never going to see that happen. You're going to be setting yourself up for a lifelong of failure and struggle if you continue to think this way. The other thing is then with someone else who's very controlling, always trying to control the outcome, be one up on you to the point where you can't make a decision for yourself. You can't put two thoughts together without saying them, well, you need to do this. These are the overpowering, overwhelming people that you need to at least reduce time with, because they will take over your physiology where all you're feeling is their energy and you're not able to feel your own. All you can hear are their standards, and then you are basically meant to try to conform to them and their standards, their ways of thinking and what they want, to the point where you lose the ability to do these things for yourself. Then it starts to feel wrong. It starts to make you feel afraid. I can't make a decision. I don't know what I'm good at. I don't know my talents. I don't know my interests. And then people just stay in limbo. It can be very overwhelming and just ghastly. And so this is how these people are. You don't need to judge them. You just need to let them go or reduce contact, because if it has a negative, deleterious effect where you are constantly feeling like they're trying to control and overpower you, it's just not good for you. You need to be able to feel your own feelings, make your own choices, make your own decisions, begin to practice good judgment, because otherwise it's just like they're trying to take control over you to fit something for their agenda, and otherwise it becomes very difficult for you to feel like you're living a whole or happy or fulfilled life. It can become to feel very empty. You feel like you're just being pulled around in a red wagon. I mean, you're just there for the ride, and it's not that you want to be, but then a lot of people, to adapt and adjust, they just then begin to try to being a supply. It's kind of like the Stockholm syndrome, where you begin to identify with the abuser and just go along with their agenda. It's like if you can't beat them, join them. So then people end up not having a backbone. They don't know what it is to have a backbone and to say, I've got this, and to mean it. They have a difficult time standing up to them. And then they have a difficult time standing up to others. And then they continue to go through a lot of abusive relationships. So it is oftentimes because of an inherent sense of insecurity that these people are trying to control. In other words, you can't then ever come up against them if they're always trying to control you. If they're always trying to tell you where to look, what to do, look at that and be distractive, then they are the ones who's trying to have leverage and control over you. And it's, it gives them the feeling that then you can never reproach them. You can never confront them. If the S can be hitting the fan and they're always hitting it, then they don't ever have to deal with someone saying, well, look at the, look at the sliver in your own eye, like the statement in the Bible says. People who are always trying to control others, they're not looking at what they need to work through. In other words, rather than working through their own stuff legitimately, they'd rather just project it and try to control others. There are some people who are wonderful leaders, great managers, but they lead by inspiration. They are not trying to control people. It's a very different sort of locus of control. They're not trying to manipulate. They are just being themselves, but they are leading by example, or they're leading by philosophy or values. And so it doesn't mean that, it doesn't mean that there aren't leaders or people who are great at managing people. There are people who are very great at managing people and creating good teams, and things of that nature. But what we're really looking at is it's an overcompensation for a deep sense of insecurity that this person is overprojecting and putting on this need to control and overpower others. It's like an alcoholic with a drink. They don't feel right unless they're drinking. The narcissist the same way. They don't feel right unless they're controlling and overpowering others. And we're not here to judge if it's good or bad or indifferent. It's just what it is. And so if you limit your contact with them, you need to kind of get into your own space, get into your own vibe, get into your own groove, and get away from that kind of chaotic, controlling energy that's so jostling and, you know, always trying to point things out where you can't even, your eye can't even go where it naturally goes. Your breath can't naturally breathe. You know, you become then hyper vigilant. You're trying to, you're just always on guard. It starts to slowly creep into arousing that fight or flight where you're always hyper vigilant and armored and really in a more of a chronic low-grade fear state because of what, you know, what kind of commands. You can't even listen to your own commands, your own drum of your own heart, because the controlling is always trying to come at you, and it's like an incessant monologuing where you're just expected to, you know, listen to the monologue of them and be a supporter rather than a contributor. And, you know, you need, it's very healthy to be around other people who invite for you to talk and don't want to always talk about themselves, but they have an interest, genuine interest in you, and, you know, care about you and can disclose some things where eventually you begin to open up about things. But, you know, those people, oftentimes it's because they don't have an ego. They don't have a realistic sense of self. They don't have self-esteem where they value kind of that inner life, that they overcompensate by projecting control onto others so that they can control the outcome and say, I've got this. It's a way for them to feel secure, when really, you know, to respect people, you have to give them their space. You have to allow for them their views. You have to be able to listen, and you have to be able to consider and then have discussion and that way. But someone who's always trying to bark your head off or, you know, be controlling, it becomes very unhealthy. So definitely go limited contact. Definitely realize that this is just a way for them to fluff themselves up bigger than what they are. You know, don't fall for it. Don't be intimidated. Don't be made fearful from it. Just realize they are who they are. But then it's very important for you then to enlarge yourself, grow for yourself, find what makes you happy, what makes you excited, you know, and then to get away from that fear. But you can see where after being controlled, it's very difficult to learn to trust people because you're so used to that uncomfortability. So you do, once you spend some time on your own and getting a sense of control and mastery over your own emotional state where you can handle people in little bits and pieces, then eventually you can build it up. But you can, it is possible. If the amount of abuse was with someone who is psychopathic, then it's going to take a good degree of time, you know, maybe 6, 12, 18 months until you're really feeling them purged and cleansed from your system. This, this bigger than life ego, which has been destructive. So that's how you know if it's really had a destructive or negative toll on your life. You know, begin to make a realistic assessment. Don't minimize it. What happened, happened. You can heal. You're going to heal. You will move on. You will be feeling like yourself. You'll be feeling better. You'll be the better for it. It'll make you a stronger person. It will take some time, but it'll be something that you will remember, but it won't be still constantly hurting you. You'll have like graduated, like you will have really a wise understanding about you and about people. You'll have gained that wisdom, and you will not falter. I mean, you will not buckle to that sort of manipulation again once you have really learned the lesson from these people, oftentimes who have very insecure or shallow ego or shallow humanity. It is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.